Who joins you at the end is not always who started with you. That's what I learned the day I saw my father collapse in the middle of the mechanic shop, grease on his hands, sweat soaking his shirt, and a smile still clinging to his tired face. There are moments you never forget, even if you want to. I was 11 years old when I truly saw my father for the first time. Not the man who grumbled about the electricity bill or tapped the steering wheel to old songs on the radio. I saw him, really saw him, as the man holding up an entire world with just 2 hands. My father's name was Manuel. He wasn't a man of many words. But he had a way of saying a lot by doing a lot more. Every morning, his boots would scuff against the hallway tiles at 5:13 a.m. sharp, like clockwork. I never saw him take a sick day. I never saw him cry. I never heard him complain. But I saw his hands. Those hands told a story before I ever understood what sacrifice meant. They were rough and cracked, stained with oil and time. And yet, when I had nightmares, those same hands would gently pull my blanket up and tuck it beneath my chin. They carried car engines and carried me when I fell. They carried groceries and carried grief. They carried everything. Especially after my mother left. It was a Tuesday. I remember because we had math homework, and I hated math. She packed 2 bags. Said she wasn't meant for this life. That she needed to feel free again. I didn't understand what that meant at the time. All I saw was my father, standing in the doorway with a silent expression, holding my tiny hand in his, gripping it just enough that I knew he was still there, even if she wasn't. From that day on, my father became both parents. He learned how to braid my sister Lila's hair. He cooked burnt pancakes every Sunday. He sat through parent-teacher conferences like he was preparing for a job interview. Every moment, every struggle, he handled with those 2 hands. But they started to shake. He thought I didn't notice. I did. At first, it was just small things. Dropping a wrench. Fumbling his pen while writing checks. But then he'd hide his hands behind his back like he was ashamed of them. As if those hands hadn't built an entire life out of nothing. At 16, I started helping him at the shop. Not because I loved cars, I didn't. But because I loved him. The garage was loud, dusty, and reeked of gasoline. But it was his world. It was where he was king. And yet, the weight he carried every day was starting to bend his spine, and I saw it. He didn't talk about his pain, not once. But I caught him one evening, alone in the break room, clutching his right hand and whispering a prayer I wasn't supposed to hear. He had arthritis. Severe. The kind that didn't get better. "I'm fine," he said when I asked. "You're not," I replied. We argued. Of course we did. Stubbornness runs in the blood. He didn't want help. Didn't want pity. He was scared. Not of pain, he could handle pain, but of what it meant to stop. To rest. To admit that even he had limits. He looked at me then, with eyes that had seen too many winters, and said, "If I stop, who holds it up? The world?" I asked. He nodded. I placed my hand over his. His worn, trembling hand. "You don't have to do it alone anymore." We restructured the shop. I took over billing, customer calls, and the lighter repairs. Lila, now in college, came home on weekends to help with the books. Dad still worked, but less. We made space for him to breathe. To rest. For the first time, he started writing. Just scribbles in a journal, memories, thoughts, lessons. I read one once, by accident. A father is not a man who holds everything together. He is the man who keeps trying, even as things fall apart. I cried that night. Not because I was sad, but because I finally understood what love looked like in his language. Action, resilience, and 2 tired hands. The day he passed, he was holding my son. My father lived long enough to become a grandfather. To feel what it was like to be loved not because he provided, but because he existed. I remember the smile on his face as he rocked my son gently, humming some old tune I'd long forgotten. And then, he was gone. Quietly. Peacefully. No dramatic gasp. No warning. Just stillness. We buried him on a clear morning, the sky an impossible shade of blue. The whole town came. Mechanics, grocery clerks, teachers, the mailman. Even my mother, older now, standing in the back with tears in her eyes. I spoke at his funeral. Most men want to be remembered for what they accomplished. My father? He'll be remembered for what he held. His family. His promises. His pain. And the world, when it was just too heavy for the rest of us. I kept the shop. Renamed it Two Hands Auto. Not because it was catchy. But because it told a story. When customers come in, they always ask, who's the second hand? I tell them, mine. I carry it now. And that's the thing. Who joins you at the end, isn't always who started with you. But sometimes, they leave behind enough love, enough strength, enough memory, that you don't have to carry the weight of the world alone anymore. You just need two hands. And the will to keep going.